right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this morning. It's the other side of the most stressful holiday of the year.
Yeah.
It's the other side, so we should be less stressed right now. We should be kind of relaxed. Everything was okay yesterday, for everybody, and I know I don't speak for everybody, but I have a trick that I want to share that I do when I get upset with anything. Mm-hmm. I always tell myself that sometime in the future I will no longer be upset. And I say, well, if that's true, then why don't I make it sooner rather than later? If I'm upset at anything, and I know that next week I'm not even going to be thinking about it, because I know that right now, if I went back in a time machine, I could see myself 20 years ago and find some point where I got upset at something, and eventually it went away, right?
Yes.
So why don't I just get rid of it right now? Mm-hmm. It's not easy, right? Easier said than done, right?
Yeah, it is.
Unless you have a guru. And Marianne Williamson might be my guru. She's really attractive. And
she is.
I don't need some, funky looking guy with a dot. No offense to the people with dots, but you know what I mean. Anyway, this I'm being silly, but the book is really awesome. It's called A Year of Miracles: Daily Devotions and Reflections. Marianne Williamson has written the book, and she's got a bunch of credits to her name. Listen to this. She's been on Oprah's show, Larry King's show, Good Morning America, Charlie Rose. She's a well-known lecturer and a very successful New York Times bestselling author. And this is not her first book, but this one is called A Year of Miracles, and I'm looking forward to that year coming up. Let's speak to Marianne Williamson about this. Good morning, Marianne.
Oh, good morning.
Thank you for being on the air with us. Where are you right now?
I am in Los Angeles, California.
My goodness, you got up early. Thank you for doing that for us.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on.
So you know what I do? I just described what I do, but there's a part two to my trick. I take a nap. If I can take a nap, I can make anything better.
Yeah.
Except maybe sadness. Yeah, there's a little delay there, and I apologize. It's making it sound like we're talking over you. But I guess I just wanted to add, if I'm like irritated, that can go away. But sadness, like from somebody dying, that's hard to shake. That takes a while.
Yeah, that's always with you.
Yeah.
I think something like sadness over someone's death is something that we shouldn't try to make go away. I think grief is important, and I think in our society today, we resist sadness too much. That's why there's an overuse of psychotherapeutic drugs, people dropping antidepressants like candy. This is not, of course, to say that there's not sometimes a place for them in real clinical depression. I certainly respect that. But people are using them just for the normal sadnesses of life, and I think a conscious, mature life is one in which we move through sad days knowing that they will pass. And if we do that, then I think we sometimes learn from our sadness. And haven't you ever felt sometimes after being sad that on the other side of the sadness, you're happier than you were before you got sad? Because something had to move through you. Something came up and went out. So I think sometimes we're more fearful of sadness than we should be. Interesting.
Wow, that's very profound, actually.
I like that.
And I'm trying to think about that, and I think I can relate to that. I think I've had that experience. It is kind of weird, isn't it? I don't want to talk about death, but when you know somebody's dying, and we've all gone through this, and but when somebody's in hospice or something, and you know they're dying, it's like horribly sad. Mm-hmm. And then when they die, it's even more horribly sad. But what you're saying is true. Like after you kind of grieve it and go through it, I don't know how long it takes for I guess everybody's different, but you look back on it sometimes and you're actually, like I was thinking about my mom yesterday on Christmas. She died a year ago, and I guess my belief that she's in heaven is what I was thinking about. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I heard? I heard somebody.
Sometimes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think sometimes, particularly with the death of a parent, the anticipation of their death is worse than ultimately how we feel after they've gone. Because once you get over the initial grief, and really there's no way to describe the sadness of the loss of a parent, but on the other side of that grief period, if we are people of faith on any level, like you said, you feel that she's in heaven, if any of us who do have a sense of life going on afterwards, after death, it has always seemed to me that the anticipation of their dying was actually worse, because like I feel my parents with me. My parents have both passed, and I feel them present. You just feel they're in your heart. You feel them, and that is that's a piece that you don't anticipate when you're just afraid they're going.
And that element,
you haven't been through it yet.
And that element of anxiety leading up to it. I mean, it's really amazing how resilient the human mind and the human body is when this person has to be strong for others. And then when that happens, they can finally go somewhere and be private and cry or do whatever it is that they need to do to grieve so they can stay healthy.
Absolutely. I think it all goes into what we were talking about before, that America is kind of like we're into this cheap and easy, happy. I have to be happy,
Yeah.
happy.
Right.
There was a time, like when I was a child, widows wore weeds. Today, we wear black all the time. But when I was growing up, if people were wearing black every day, it meant something. And
That's
people
right.
really did have a sense of a mourning period. Today we act like, what, you're not happy yet? It happened a month ago,
Oh,
But
exactly.
Yeah, I know.
a time when it was understood their parent died, someone in their family died, and they were in mourning. And then if you go through that, then you really end your grief. If you suppress it and don't really let it happen, then it will tend to linger in dysfunctional ways. I remember once leading a grief support group and saying to somebody, this is a grief support group, not a grief denial group. Because grief is an important way that the psyche integrates an experience so that the person ultimately really does go on with their life in a peaceful way.
I mean, you are a guru. And I knew it already, but I mean, you really are. I mean, you actually sound like somebody who's channeling. It sounds like you're channeling a spirit or something, the way you speak. This particular book, I want to talk about some of your other books also, but let me just focus on this one to be fair, because that's the whole point of this interview. The book is called The Year of Miracles, and I'm wondering, when you've had it out, after it's been out for a while, I'm wondering if you're going to get letters from people who started on day one, and like on day 120 or 220 or something, they're going to write you and say, you're not going to believe how appropriate that was for that day.
Oh,
I'm wondering if you're going to have any of those kind of peculiar, almost like fate kind of things.
Well, I don't know what I will receive, but I know it's certainly my hope that people will feel on more than just one day that this is
Right.
kind of a perfect inspiration for them. When it comes to truth principles, anything that has to do with our being more loving or more forgiving or having more faith in a positive outcome, they really do apply to every day. So there's a way in which, even if there's not a specific incident that you'd say, oh, I totally see how that connects. Let's say there's no one that you're thinking of in your life right now that you really need to forgive. Still, if you read a little inspiration about forgiveness, you'd probably come up with somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe
what I'm saying? Things would occur to you. Yeah.
And that person could be you. You might be the one person you need to forgive.
Spirituality isn't situational. We tend to say, well, what's the situation that's causing you this pain or that pain? But really, I think there's an underlying sadness in the human condition that all of us can relate to, whether we're actually in a particular situation that screams out for spiritual insight or not.
Could you have written 10 years of miracles? Could you actually have had 3,650 miracles instead of 365? And I guess part two to the question is, how did you come up with them? Did you meditate? Did you pray? How did you decide this is the concept I want to put on this page?
Well, I do meditate and pray daily, but that's not specifically what I see as technique for writing this book any more than I see it as technique for living a life that's creative and peaceful in any situation. I've always felt in my writing that my only chance of touching another person, of writing anything that made another person go, yes, is if it came from that place within myself. So if a topic is interesting to you, it will more likely be interesting to the person who's listening to you, because people hear us at the level we speak from. So I could only write a prayer or a devotion or a reflection or a meditation that emerged from my heart. And it's kind of difficult to sit down in some rational way and say, okay, I will write a prayer now. If it's not
Right,
if it's
right,
not
right.
emanating from your heart, it sort of
It was-
doesn't come out in a meaningful way.
And you've put a new spin on the word daily devotions, because years ago people thought that was something that was ultra religious. You would pick up the Bible, read a Bible verse, and that would help you through your day. But a daily devotion could be just some kind of observation a person might make about somebody else, and to think about it and then decide to emulate that, or say, no, that's something I have to stay away from, so I'll make sure I don't incorporate that in my life.
Well, I think that's an insight. I don't think it's necessarily a devotion. I think in terms of what you were saying before about people finding through Bible verse or whatever their spiritual insight, I think that many people find their real spiritual wisdom through a religious practice. But I think more and more people on the planet today want the spiritual wisdom, but for whatever reason are not as interested in the religious dogma or doctrine, or at least none that they have found in their lives so far.
Oh, okay.
So I think the spiritual food that always has to do with how we ourselves might live a more loving life, how we ourselves might have a deeper sense of connection to that which created us, whether we call it God or any other name. I certainly call it God in this book. But there are people who have an experience of God just because they love other people and live in that love that don't necessarily yet believe in such a concept. So I think devotion takes us beyond insight, and it takes us into the place in the heart where we're really talking about something that goes beyond just this mortal existence to an expanded sense of who we really are and what's really going on in our lives.
I want to bring up one of your other titles. I don't know anything about the book other than the title. The title is A Woman's Worth. And I want to tell you why, just based on the title alone, I wanted to ask you about it. And it's a very, very personal story, and I've shared it with listeners before, so it's not the first time. And for the listeners, forgive me for bringing something up again, but I want Marianne to hear the story. I lost a sister 5 years ago. She died, and she was much younger. She was like 7 years younger than me. Mm-hmm. But she had a very difficult life, and the cause of that difficult life, I believe, was started when she was very young, maybe 11, yeah. When one of our cousins sexually abused her or raped her. I don't know which term really fits, but either way, he did. And he told her, if you say anything to anybody, I will kill everybody. And of course, we didn't find this out until many years later, when she was an adult. And it explained a lot. It explained a lot of her choices. It explained a lot of what happened in the path of her life, who she chose to be with, and what she chose to do, and how she, more importantly, and this is why I think your title is speaking to me, how she chose to believe in herself, or the lack of belief. I felt like she was really super smart, really super talented. She used to write poetry all the time, and still managed to find these guys that would always be nasty to her. Not all of them. I know there's a couple of former brothers-in-law that still are out there, and they were not bad to her, but she had her share of bad guys. And I believe, and I'm not an expert, I'm just a radio host, but we speak to experts all the time, and I believe that she just didn't believe in herself. She thought she was worthless. And that's why the title resonated with me, A Woman's Worth. And if you're helping women understand that they are worthy, that nobody, man or other woman, nobody should be making somebody feel less than worthy. I'm taking up all your time, Marianne, but I just wanted to tell you that your title, one 3-word title, resonated with me.
Mm-hmm. Well, my deepest condolences about your sister. I lost a sister myself several years ago, so I know how painful the death of a sibling is, and I think the trauma that your sister went through at 11 years old, to hear what you say she was told, and by a relative no less.
Right.
And to be threatened at the age of 11 the way she was, anybody with any compassion in their heart can understand that that would have been such a tremendous burden for a child to carry, and it would have been very, very difficult without a lot of help, spiritual help, psychological help, family help. It would have been very, very difficult to move through that and to emerge unscathed. And I'm very sorry that your sister couldn't make that transition to a healthy, happy life in this lifetime. And I certainly hope and agree with you. I'm sure you assume that she's at peace where she is now.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, this book is called A Year of Miracles, and it is written by our guest Marianne Williamson. I went to day number 360, which is today, by the way. Today is 360, and you write on trusting our desires, and it's 2 paragraphs. May I read them?
Please.
This is what Marianne writes for the 360th day, which is today. If you were to start on January 1st, which I don't think is necessarily how you have to do this. Many people have a hard time allowing themselves to really want what they want. They think, at least subconsciously, that asking for total happiness is asking for too much. They don't bother, therefore, to truly listen to their heart's desire. But when your mind is attuned through prayer, meditation, and forgiveness, when your body is attuned through healthy nutrition and exercise, and when your behavior is attuned through a sincere effort at healthy living, then you've earned the right to trust yourself. When you're aligned with truth, your desires can be trusted. You have a knowing that they come from God. Wow. That's pretty powerful stuff.
Very powerful stuff. Very powerful.
And you're basically saying, you've got the power to be in control of your own life.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes people censor themselves. It's like, oh no, who am I to want that? Or that could never happen. They'll never let me. And so you have this thought, you have this pure desire. Your subconscious is ready to reveal to you all kinds of images, all kinds of insights by which you could make it happen. The universe is ready to sort of coalesce into a kind of game plan. But you yourself go, oh, that could never happen. Oh, I shouldn't even think about that. Mm-hmm. And this is what happens when you don't recognize miracles, when you don't realize that the universe is a field of infinite possibility, when you don't have any concept of an all-loving, all-powerful force, then you keep your life small by your own beliefs in what's possible. So a lot of people have desires that are for wonderful things. I desire a life of joy. I desire a life of creativity. I desire a life of abundance. I desire a life of a certain kind of relationship. But then we go, oh, no, it could never happen. Who am I to have that? And we ourselves abort the process.
And that is such a great explanation of the form of self-sabotage, because there are so many people out there that just can't recognize something good that's in their life or some kind of miracle that happens, because they're so denying the fact that they're worth it.
And that's why books like this exist, whether it's mine or anyone else's, because the world we live in is dominated by a thought system which keeps us bound to a very narrow sense of who each of us is. Mm-hmm. We see ourselves as small, limited, only mortal creatures. We see other people as only small, limited, only mortal creatures. And that's why we judge ourselves, and that's why we judge other people. Going back to what you were saying, Larry, about your sister's sense of worth, my book, A Woman's Worth. It's like in Oh Holy Night, the lyric, Oh Holy Night, long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth.
Oh, I love that.
Wow. I love that line. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that line has resonated with me also many times. You are a deep-thinking woman. Would we get along? Because I'm a goofy guy. If you and I were hanging out...
I'm a goofy girl, and I'm a goofy girl at certain times.
Oh, are you? So are you near the Santa Monica Pier at all?
Am I there right now?
Are you near it? Do you live near the Santa Monica Pier?
Well, I'm not right now real near it, but it's certainly in this town, sure.
See, because I could imagine, like, taking a walk with you on the Santa Monica Pier. Not that I'm hinting at this, by the way. But you're so I could imagine myself just having a hard time not being silly. You know, I'm just that way. Do you know what's here's weird thing, and maybe it's some people and not all people. And I was gonna say maybe it's guys, but maybe it's women too. Sometimes when you first know somebody, all you want to do is be entertaining. You don't really want them to know that you got a deep side. And then after a while, they get to know the deep side. So are you that way? I mean, we're getting to know the really deep side of you, but is there another part of you? Do you dance around in your underwear sometimes?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about the underwear part, but dance around, absolutely. And sing and tell jokes when I remember them. Yeah. I don't think people think. I think partly because in my work, my work is serious.
Right.
I think because of that, when I'm not working, I want to, read a novel and do silly things and just hang out as much as anyone does. Sure, your brain needs that. We need to have, the period of rest and just moving into the right brain. We need all that. Otherwise, we become heavy. It's one thing to be a serious person. It's another thing to be heavy. And I think there's a lightness of spirit, which is a kind of higher form of intelligence, actually.
And if I could interject one little thing, earlier I kind of mentioned a trick that I do to get over something. I tell myself it's going to be over eventually. Why not get over it now? Just don't make it last longer. But there's another thing I do to snap. The way I snap out of. I don't know if I'm in the doldrums or something, the way I snap out of it. And again, I'm not talking about serious doldrums like somebody's passed away, but just if I'm just for some reason, whatever, down. All I got to do is go to YouTube and look up videos where dogs are doing silly things. I always get a kick out of the stupid videos with the dogs. If a dog is chasing a dog.
My daughter the other day showed me the website Awkward Family Photos.
Right, that kind of stuff.
And that one, I laughed so hard. Awkward. Go look it up if you have an Awkward Family Photos.
Yeah.
I laughed so hard I thought I was going to fall off my chair. Yeah, those things are good. Those things are good. Yeah. I love a great comedy. Sure, we all do.
You help a lot of people on your speaking engagements as a lecturer, and now since you've written this book, among others, how do you get people to trust you when you're speaking to them one-on-one, and also to trust you enough to buy your book so the people can be inspired and take what you say to heart?
Oh, I'm not trying to get anyone to do anything. I'm not trying to get anyone to trust me. I'm just singing my song, I'm just writing what comes from my heart. And if that resonates with people, it's like any book you read. I don't know that the author is so much getting you to trust them as just writing what is true for them. And then if that resonates with what is true for you, you'll know in your heart whether or not you want to read the book. I don't think a genuine spiritual path is trying to get us to trust anything outside ourselves. We're trusting each other. We're trusting in a power greater than we are that lies inside our own heart. So I, as a person, am kind of irrelevant. I'm just the person who wrote down these reflections, but the reflections are not about me. These daily devotions, are the idea. I think sometimes we wake up in the morning in America, we take a shower because we don't want to take yesterday's dirt on our bodies into the day.
I know,
so
I do.
We know to purify the dirt off our bodies, but too often we don't purify the stress from yesterday. We wake up, we turn on the computer, we turn on the news, we rush through coffee, and then we run out of the house. And these meditations in this book are just a way to realize, if you take a little time during the day, during the morning particularly, to de-stress, to center yourself in that which is most true, to open your heart, to just ground yourself into a deeper place within yourself, then you will be able to soar during the day. You will have such a more powerful day in the world if you ground yourself first in the power inside your heart. So when you read about these devotions, when you read these reflections, you're not going to read about me. You're going to read about you and your own higher power, the God of your understanding, and your relationship and forgiveness of other people. So there's not anything to trust in me. But it is a course in learning to trust the love inside your heart.
Wow.
Oh, how profound.
Wow.
Wow.
I love listening to you talk. I have a copy of the book. It's a hardcover book. I guess that's what you call them. And A Year of Miracles is yours if you want it. Call me. The rest of us have to go buy it, though. Marianne Williamson is who you would look up on the different websites that sell books. Do you have a website of your own, Marianne, you want to tell us about?
Sure, Marianne.com.
Oh, wow. You got it?
Yeah.
Nobody had it?
Got it. No, because early on, before I even knew it was a big deal, the gentleman who was working with me got it. I'm so grateful to him. At the time, I didn't even know it was a big deal.
Wow, every other Marianne is so angry with you right now.
That's right.
They should. Those other Mariannes need to pick up the book and get over it. Just chill out a little bit.
Well, they can get there through MarianneWilliamson.com as well.
Are you running for Congress? What does this say on here? Marianne Williamson for Congress. Are you running?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am here in Los Angeles. Yeah.
Wow.
I'll vote for you.
Yep.
Excellent.
Well, not from Gainesville.
District 33. My brother lives out
Here
there.
we're
I wonder if
looking.
he's in District 33.
Oh, where does your brother live?
In Canyon Country. Is that what it's called? Canyon Country.
Canyon Country?
That's the name of the city. Canyon Country.
Oh, yeah.
Does that sound
would not
familiar?
be in
That's not where you are?
No, Canyon Country is not in this district that I know of, unless that's just a neighborhood. But tell him about the race anyway. He should know about it if he's out here. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm typing in what congressional district is Canyon Country in?
Computers
Let's
are
see.
wonderful.
Yeah, I can do anything on Google.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? Yeah.
Okay, California in. do you wish Arnold was still your governor, by the way?
No, we have a really good one in Jerry Brown.
Okay. Oh, that's right, Jerry Brown. I know I knew that Schwarzenegger was no longer there. Santa Clarita's Canyon Country. So Santa Clarita must be the county, right?
Yeah, that's not this district. But he
Okay.
might know people in this district. So I hope you'll still go. For that, you can go to the website, MarianneForCongress.com.
Okay. Or just go to Marianne.com, Marianne, Marianne.com.
NNE.com.
Yeah. Marianne, you are a delight to speak to. Thank you so much for
Thank you so much.
being on the air, getting up early. Good luck with your congressional run. And if you want to talk politics one day.
Thank you.
Yeah, once you're in Congress, you represent all of us, even though
Yeah.
you only have a district there.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, you represent the people of your district, but yeah, you're part of the larger conversation. And,
Yeah.
all the things we're talking about here today, about putting more love in our hearts and having a greater compassion and the values of living a more spiritual, loving life. Wouldn't that be great if we took that into the larger sphere and tried to think of our collective identity as also one in which we lived with a greater love and compassion and wisdom and reflection? Can you imagine?
Can you,
Wow.
can you imagine Marianne at the podium in Congress? I would love to watch C-SPAN when you're on.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
You're so
you'd be
good.
one of the few that are actually...
As my mother would say, from your mouth to God's ears.
But right, exactly. But you would be the one who was not doing double talk. You would be the one who actually made sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, then, check it out and support my campaign. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, we can send a donation.
Marianne, thank you again for being on with us. And have a
Thank
great
you
new
so
year.
much.
And we'll talk to you
Thank
next
God
time.
bless you both.
All right, we'll take a break.
you.
We'll be right back.
You're listening to WOCA News Talk 1370, Ocala's source for what's happening in today's hottest, up-to-date news and topics.
This is a public notice. Local residents can now save thousands of dollars on their next car, truck, or SUV. It's not a tent sale, because no tent is big enough to hold this many cars. It's OcalaForSale.com. Say goodbye to sticker shock. OcalaForSale.com has thousands of vehicles with no stickers at all. But hurry, don't walk, don't run. Just sit down and log on to OcalaForSale.com. Prices and inventory change daily. Offer does not include dealer upcharge. Undercutting, loss proofing, factory surcharge, or delivery fee. See website for details.
ABC News Now. I'm Karen Chase. UPS and FedEx are fielding a backlash from customers who say the shipping giants broke their promise to deliver by Christmas. UPS apologized and said the volume overwhelmed its system. FedEx says its overall performance was better than 99.9%. Target says the Black Friday security breach wasn't as bad as people suspected. While as many as 40 million card numbers may have been stolen, Target officials say no PIN numbers were compromised. It's a not-so-happy holiday trend. Hospitals see a 5% spike in heart attack victims in the days before and after Christmas and New Year's. They suspect it's caused by a combination of shopping stress, overindulgence, lack of exercise, and too much alcohol. It could be well into the weekend before some people get their power back from Michigan to Maine. More than 130,000 homes and businesses are offline because of a devastating ice storm. Police suspect drugs or alcohol were factors in the arrest of a 49-year-old man who climbed a security fence at Phoenix Airport and ran toward a Southwest plane that had just landed. No one was hurt. This is ABC News.
A lot can happen during the life of your interstate car battery.
Nice ride.
Thanks. Want to go steady?
I now pronounce you husband and wife.
Honey, I think it's time.
It's a boy.
Jimmy, soccer practice.
Dad, can I borrow the car?
Hey, nice ride.
Thanks. Want to go steady?
No battery lasts longer than an Interstate, and the new Interstate AGM lasts up to 3 times longer than the competition. To find a dealer near you, visit interstatebatteries.com.
Hi, I'm Scott Jusim of OMG Tax. My team can help you with all your IRS tax problems. Honest and professional, we don't make false promises. Do you owe the IRS? Do you have unfiled tax returns? We cover all the bases to help you get tax resolution fast. Call us today so that we can knock all your tax problems out of the park.
Call 1-800-346-2328. That's 1-800-346-2328. 800-346-2328.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Life jackets save lives. Wear it, Florida. We'll have some fog around this morning, otherwise clouds and a few sunny breaks today with a shower spots along the coast in the morning. The high today 71 to 75. Mostly cloudy tonight with a shower in spots, the low 61 to 65. Tomorrow mostly cloudy with a shower or two around, the high 71 to 75. For Saturday, clouds and sun with a chance of a shower, high 75 to 79. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Here are today's headlines from the source WOCA. All was not necessarily so calm around 1 a.m. Christmas morning for a Marianne County Fire Rescue paramedic. According to a report from the Marianne County Sheriff's Office, a reckless driver nearly crashed head-on into a Marianne County Fire Rescue emergency vehicle. The paramedic driving the vehicle, identified as 38-year-old Brandon Brown, pursued the reckless driver and followed the car until law enforcement authorities arrived. The reckless driver was identified as 65-year-old Alberto Cruz Torres of Ocala. Torres was arrested and charged with DUI after officers noted a strong smell of alcohol and observed an open container of alcohol in his vehicle. Torres was transported to the Marianne County Jail, where he later refused the breath, blood, and urine tests. Following months of negotiations, the city of Denellen has sold its failed fiber optic business that's left the city teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. On Monday, Denellen officially sold Greenlight Communications to Florida Cable Incorporated. The selling price was a little more than $1 million, far less than the nearly $8 million the city initially borrowed to finance the venture. City leaders say the sale is just the first step towards righting the city's finances and preventing Denellen from going bankrupt. City manager Eddie Esch told reporters that the sale of Greenlight is a first step for the city of Denellen to move forward towards some kind of a resolution with the remaining debt. Despite the sale, city officials still have to figure out how to pay back about $7 million in loans. After talks between the city and its lender, Regions Bank, broke down, the bank sued the city for default. City officials say Regions should have known the loan was bad before issuing it. The case is expected to be tied up in court for some time to come. A new report ranks Florida as the most expensive state in the nation for home insurance, a dubious distinction that is straining homeowners' budgets and increasingly threatening the state's economy. The average premium for a typical homeowner's policy is $1,933 in the state of Florida, according to the latest data released last week by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. That is 4 times the cost of a policy in Idaho, which is the cheapest state for homeowners insurance. Homeowners insurance is now twice as expensive in Florida as the national average. Florida's reputation for low-cost living, a key driver in its growth for decades, could be challenged by steadily increasing property insurance rates. The annual NAIC Homeowners Report compiles premium data from 2011, which is the most recent year for which numbers are available. Some say the 2-year-old data underestimates the extent of Florida's property insurance woes. Jeff Atwater, Florida's chief financial officer, recently asked State Insurance Commissioner Kevin McCarthy to conduct an analysis of homeowners